Three, two, one.
Hi everyone, welcome. This is the first talk tonight in a series on good bee biosecurity. My name is Rebecca Laws. I'm the Bee Biosecurity Officer for Queensland. I'm joined tonight by a couple of people to help me. I've got Susie and Kelly who are going to do some of the technical side of stuff for me. And we've got Hamish, who's an apiary officer, who's going to help out with some of the questions. Just before we start, I'm going to give a bit of a short talk and then we're going to have a question and answer session. So you should have a little question and answer icon on your computer and you can click on that one and type in your questions anytime and I will get to them at the end of the talk. I'm going to try and do as many of the questions as I can, but if I don't get to your question, please try and put your email in there if you'd like me to email you a response back later. And I hope you enjoy this lecture series. So tonight's talk is going to be on good bee biosecurity and it's the first in a series of talks. So in a fortnight's time, we're going to have a talk about bee brood diseases. This will be followed by one about mites and external parasites. After that, we'll have one on how to submit samples to the lab for disease testing. And then our final talk is going to be on the honeybee industry biosecurity code of practice. And I had word today that I have a very special guest from QBA who's going to be online and to help me out with that one. So let's start with why bee biosecurity is really so important. Bees, pests and diseases pose a big threat, not just to your hive, but to the honeybee industry, our honey produce, all the crops out there that rely on honeybees for pollination, as well as many native plants who also rely on honeybees for pollination. And good bee biosecurity practices can help detect pests early and prevent their spread. You're also required by law to meet your general biosecurity obligation as a beekeeper. Now, all Queenslanders have a general biosecurity obligation, or GBO, under the Biosecurity Act. And what this means is that everyone's responsible for managing biosecurity risks that are under their control and that they should know about or they should reasonably be expected to know about. So how that translates for beekeepers is that you need to have a general understanding of what the risks are in spreading pests and diseases of bees and how to manage those risks effectively. So now tonight, I'm going to go through all the ways that you can make sure that you're undertaking good bee biosecurity and also meeting your general biosecurity obligation. Firstly, you can register your hive. Anyone who owns a hive in Queensland is required to be registered. You can apply online to become a registered biosecurity entity. And I'm going to add at the end of the talk links in the chat section to the online form for anyone who needs to register. It's actually free for hobby beekeepers. Once you've registered, you'll be sent out a HIN or hive identification number. This needs to be placed on the front of your hive. It needs to go on at least one in every 50 hives, but we recommend you put it on all your hives as it helps you identify your hives and helps with theft. You can see I put at the bottom of the screen here a little diagram to show where you should place your hive identification number. If you're the first owner, put it right in the middle. If you're the second, up in the left corner, and the third in the right, and so on and so forth for the fourth and fifth. The next thing you need to do for good bee biosecurity is to practice good bee husbandry. A strong, healthy hive with lots of bees will minimise the chances that you will have pests and diseases introduced to your hive. Some of the things that you can do to have good bee husbandry is to leave your bees with at least 1/4 of a box of honey for the autumn and winter. So now when it's getting a little bit cooler, they need those reserves to get them all the way through that hard period over the winter. If conditions do get very poor, like during a drought, you should try and feed your bees. The best way to feed bees is using sugar syrup and not honey. Honey often has pests and diseases in it already that can then spread to your bees. We also strongly recommend that you feed within the hive, so an in-hive feeder rather than outside the hive. And this is because if you have the sugar outside the hive, it can attract bees that aren't yours to that area, and those bees might bring pests and diseases with them. Another thing you can do is to reduce the number of boxes when the number of bees is low, like during the winter. If you've got lots of boxes and lots